All right, let's dive in, shall we? We've got a whole lot to unpack here. A file overflowing with spies and gangsters and double-crossing on a scale that would make even the most seasoned detective's head spin.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about a shadowy network stretching from London to Macau, where the lines between intelligence agencies and organized crime get about as blurry as they come. And at the heart of it all is this operation. This whole thing is codenamed Ahab's Folly.
Ahab's Folly, huh? Okay, you've got my attention. That name alone conjures images of, well, folly, I guess. Obsession, maybe a touch of disaster thrown in for good measure. Like someone took a wrong turn and ended up in the espionage equivalent of, well, Moby Dick, I suppose.
Perhaps, but with far higher stakes, I assure you.
I don't doubt it. But where do we even begin with this story? Where does this tale of Ahab-like intrigue even start?
It starts with a murder. A North Korean intelligence officer by the name of Kook Ji-won found dead under, shall we say, unusual circumstances.
Unusual how?
Handcuffed to a briefcase on a remote island in Japan.
Okay, now that's just dramatic. Talk about commitment. What was in that briefcase the recipe for kimchi-flavored world domination or something?
Not quite, though I'm sure the contents were considered equally valuable in certain circles. The briefcase, heavily damaged I might add, contained documents hinting at a rather audacious North Korean plot. They were planning to kidnap individuals, high-profile individuals, for ransom.
Kidnapping for ransom, classic espionage move. But they don't exactly scream North Korea, do they?
No, and that's the clever part. They weren't planning to take credit. The documents suggest they were setting up organized crime groups to take the fall.
Clever girl. Deflecting blame to sow chaos, that's hitting two birds with one stone. But why target criminal organizations specifically? What's the endgame there?
Destabilization, plain and simple. Imagine the fallout, the increased surveillance, the public distrust. And they had a specific target in mind, individuals with connections to some of London's most notorious figures.
London. So we're already hopping across continents. This is getting interesting. Who were these unlucky targets?
The document specifically mentioned the Church brothers, Carson and Carlyle. Those names ring a bell.
Oh, how could they not? The Church brothers, the dapper dons of London's underworld. More at home with high-stakes poker and, shall we say, less than legal business ventures than, getting tangled up in international kidnappings. What were the North Koreans really after? What did these guys have that was so valuable?
It wasn't just about the ransom money, it seems. Among the fragmented documents, investigators found references to something far more intriguing, something that could shake the very foundations of global finance.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. What kind of financial intrigue are we talking about here? Insider trading? Offshore accounts?
Think bigger. Think digital. The North Koreans were after advanced hacking software, a program codenamed Gorgon.
Gorgon. Like the mythical creature. Talk about on-the-nose symbolism. Why all the fuss over some code, even if it has a catchy name? What's so special about this Gorgon?
This is not just any code. This is the key to the kingdom. It's rumored to be capable of cracking global banking systems, the kind of power most criminals can only dream of. And according to the documents, Gorgon was developed by an Israeli cybersecurity firm with alleged ties to Mossad.
Hold on, Mossad. Now we're talking. So we've gone from traditional espionage to full-blown cyber warfare with the Church brothers caught in the crossfire. This is escalating quickly. But who's pulling the strings on this Gorgon heist? Who's supplying the North Koreans with this kind of firepower?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's where things get really interesting. The documents point to a new player entering the game, a high-ranking Chinese intelligence official by the name of Yang Bo.
Yang Bo. Okay, and what's his angle in all this? Is he a rogue agent, or is he playing for Team China?
On the surface, he's operating under the guise of advancing his nation's economic interests. But there are whispers, rumors, suggesting his motives might be a bit more self-serving.
A little birdie told you that, did they? A classic tale of ambition and intrigue. What kind of whispers are we talking about?
Let's just say that Yang Bo has a brother, Yang Guzi, a name you might recognize.
Wait, Yang Guzi? As in the Minister of State Security, Yang Guzi.
The very same. And according to these documents, there seems to be a bit of a sibling rivalry brewing, a clash of ideologies with potentially global consequences.
Sibling rivalry on a global scale. Now that's what I call a dysfunctional family reunion. But how does this power struggle tie back into Ahab's Folly? What's Yang Bo's endgame?
That's the question, isn't it? It seems he's playing a dangerous game, using Ahab's Folly to settle scores and consolidate his own power. It's a Machiavellian power play masked as international espionage.
Okay, so we've got a dead North Korean, ambitious Chinese officials, Israeli cyber weapons, and our dapper London gangsters caught in the middle.
Yeah.
Quite the cast of characters we've got here. Where do we go from here?
Well, our attention now shifts to another player in this little drama, a CIRO agent by the name of Haru Endo. CIRO, for those unfamiliar, is Japan's primary intelligence agency. Think MI6 or the CIA, but with a Tokyo twist.
Right, got it. Tokyo's finest. What's Agent Ender's role in all of this?
He was initially tasked with investigating the murder of, you guessed it, Kok Ji-won, the North Korean officer we met earlier, handcuffed to his briefcase and all. But Endo's investigation takes an unexpected turn.
Let me guess. He uncovers a clue, a whisper, a breadcrumb trail leading him straight to
London, and more specifically to the doorstep of the Church Brothers Casino.
the Bonaparte Casino, of course. Because what's a good espionage thriller without a little high-stakes gambling thrown in for good measure? Well, what's a Japanese intelligence agent doing in the lion's den of London's underworld? How does he fit into Ahab's Folly?
That's the question, isn't it? And the answer might lie with a new player entering the scene, a mysterious figure known only as Fedallah.
Fedallah, okay, now you're just messing with me. As in the harpooner from Moby Dick? Talk about heavy-handed symbolism. Who is this Fedallah character and what's his connection to everything else going on?
All excellent questions. Questions we'll explore when we return.
This Fedallah character has piqued my interest, to say the least. You're not going to leave me hanging on a cliffhanger like that, are you?
Of course not. But to understand Fedallah's role, we need to delve a little deeper into the shadows. This harpooner, as you aptly put it, is a Kidon operative.
Kidon, you're going to need to elaborate on that one. Is that some new cybersecurity jargon I'm not hip to?
Not quite. Kidon is about as far from the digital world as you can get. They are the Mossad's elite unit, specialists in assassination and sabotage.
So we've got Israeli assassins in the mix now. Things just got a whole lot more complicated. What are they doing meddling in Ahab's Folly?
On the surface, Fedallah's mission seems straightforward, to facilitate the sale of that Gorgon software to the North Koreans. But, as with everything in this twisted tale, there's more than meets the eye, because Fedallah is more than just a code name, it's a disguise.
You're not going to tell me that. Okay, this sounds crazy, but do I need to brush up on my Moby Dick to understand who this Fedallah really is?
You might want to revisit that classic at some point, but I'll save you the trouble. Fedallah is Harriet.
Harriet. As in the Harriet. Yeah. The one who's been, well, let's just say a recurring character in our little explorations. She's a highly trained Mossad assassin. Talk about hidden talents.
It seems our enigmatic artificionado has a rather dangerous past. Her presence in Macau raises a whole new set of questions, doesn't it? What's her game? Who is she working for? The Israelis. The British. Or maybe, just maybe, she's playing her own hand entirely.
This is incredible. It's like we're watching a masterclass in deception unfold in real time. But hold on, if Harriet is supposed to be selling the Gorgon software, what about Yang Bo and his plans? What's his take on all of this?
That's where Ahab's Folly takes its most dramatic turn yet. Remember Yang Bo's brother, Yang Gozi, the Minister of State Security? Well, seems he's decided to intervene, put a stop to the sale of Gorgon.
Wait, he shut down his own brother's operation. Why? Was he worried about the global fallout of unleashing that kind of cyber weapon? Or is there something else going on, something a little less altruistic?
It's hard to say for sure, but the documents suggest Yang Gozi might have his own plans for the Gorgon software. It's a powerful tool, and he sees its potential, maybe even more than his brother does.
So it's a power play then, a good old-fashioned sibling rivalry with some global espionage sprinkled on top. I can't even imagine what that family reunion must be like. But what happens to the Church Brothers? They're caught in the middle of all this.
The Church Brothers, once valuable assets, had become liabilities, loose ends in a game played by far more powerful players.
This is where the real danger of Ahab's Folly becomes clear. It's not a game anymore, it's survival. But what about Harry? Where does he fit into all of this?
While all of this is happening, Harry's on a mission of his own. British intelligence has sent him to Macau to track down Kam Won-suk.
Kam Won-suk, the North Korean agent who started all of this. The one who disappeared with a small fortune. Why send Harry after her? What's the strategy there?
Because she holds the key to untangling this web. And besides, she's walking around with a sizable chunk of both North Korean and Chinese funds. Someone has to try and recover those, wouldn't you say?
I guess you've got a point. But Macau's a big city, a million places to disappear. Where does Harry even begin to look for a ghost?
His search leads him to a place we're all familiar with, a place where fortunes are won and lost, and dangerous games are always in play. The Parisian casino.
The Parisian casino, of course. A den of intrigue if I ever saw one. And you're not going to tell me, are you? Let me guess. Harriet's there.
Harriet's always one step ahead. But this time, it's not Harriet that Harry runs into at the Parisian. It's Carlisle Church.
Carlisle Church. In Macau. I thought he and his brother were supposed to be lying low, trying to avoid becoming collateral damage in all of this. What's he doing there?
It seems Mr. Church is full of surprises. His presence in Macau just throws another wrench into an already complicated machine.
Say that again. Every time we think we've got a handle on things, another layer of the story peels back. And frankly, I'm not sure which is more shocking. Sydney's death? Harriet's secret life? Or the fact that we might have underestimated the Church brothers? This has gone from 0 to 60 in, 5 minutes? And I, for one, am living for it. I've got to hand it to you. This Ahab's Folly is like a labyrinth with no exit. Every turn we take, it's another layer of deception, another mirror distorting the truth. Carlisle Church in Macau, Sydney MIA, or is it KIA? I don't even know anymore. Where do we even go from here?
Well, let's just say the world of espionage has a funny way of revealing its secrets when you least expect it.
Okay, that cryptic tone is back, and I'm not sure how much more my nerves can take. Just rip off the bandage, will you?
Remember our friend Sydney Katz?
How could I forget? He's practically a legend at this point. Well, either that or a cautionary tale about the dangers of balconies. But you're right, he's been conspicuously absent from this whole Macau situation.
Absence can be deceiving.
Okay, you're killing me with the cryptic pronouncements. Just tell me, is Sydney alive or not? Did he or didn't he take that swan dive off the balcony?
Sydney Katz is very much alive.
He's alive, but how? The fall? The Ballard? I mean, are you sure?
Let's just say British intelligence has a flair for the dramatic. Sydney's death was a carefully crafted illusion, a means to an end.
So they faked his death. Why go through all that trouble, and what's he been up to this whole time?
They needed him on the ground in Macau, operating under the radar. Think of it as a deep, deep cover operation.
Okay, but what was so important that they had to stage his death? What was he doing?
Remember how we were talking about the blurred lines between espionage and organized crime? Well, it seems Sydney's mission was to get a little too close to those lines for comfort.
You're not suggesting what I think you're suggesting, are you? Tell me you're not about to blow this whole thing wide open.
The documents suggest that Sydney was tasked with infiltrating Cam Won-suk's network, getting close to her. And he succeeded.
He got close to her. But if he was working for British intelligence, what does that mean for our London gangsters? Were they in on it?
It seems the Church brothers weren't just targets in Ahab's Folly. They were active participants. British intelligence had them on their payroll.
The Church brothers, government informants, this just took a turn for the unbelievable. And Sydney, what was his role in all of this?
Sydney, it appears, was the one who eliminated Cam Won-suk.
What? Sydney took her out. Our Sydney, the art connoisseur, this changes everything.
Indeed. Sydney Katz is full of surprises, isn't he? However, it appears his luck, much like his carefully constructed identity, was not built to last.
What do you mean? What happened? Don't tell me. It's those files again, the ones Yangozi has.
Precisely. It seems those files contain a rather crucial piece of information about Mr. Katz, something that could expose his true identity and compromise everything.
And Yangozi, being the ever-so-helpful individual that he is, decided to share this information, I presume?
Information is a weapon, my friend, and Yangozi is a master strategist. The last bit of intel we have is a phone call. A woman's voice, chillingly calm, uttering a single phrase, "The Katz is in the cradle."
Okay, that's just ominous. A cradle, what does it mean?
I'm afraid it means our dear Sydney, the man who cheated death, is now a marked man. But here's the thing about Ahab's Folly. It's like a ghost story, a whisper that echoes through time. And this, my friend, is far from over.
Wait, so what happens to Sydney? And what about Yangozi's offer to Harry? Does he accept? And Harriet, where does she fit into all of this? We're left with more questions than answers.
And that's the nature of this world, isn't it? The answers are rarely clear-cut. The truth is out there, somewhere in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. But for now, it seems, some mysteries are best left unsolved.
Well, I suppose that's our cue then. This journey into the heart of Ahab's Folly has been a wild ride, to say the least. It's been a maze of intrigue and deception, with twists and turns I never saw coming.
Until next time, then. When we delve into the next chapter of this unfolding saga, who knows what secrets we'll uncover.
Until then, keep your friends close, your enemies closer, and remember, in this game, no one is who they seem.